Caught my fiancée sending lingerie photos to another man, lied and gaslit me until she deleted the evidence. Now we're pregnant, engaged, and supposed to be getting married in 3 months. Saturday morning is still playing on a loop in my head, like a scene I can't quite pause or rewind enough to understand properly. I don't know yet whether I'm angry, numb, heartbroken, or all three at once. All I know is that something shifted, and I haven't figured out how to stand on the other side of it. I'm 29, and that morning started like any other. I finished up in the shower, steam still hanging in the bathroom, and walked back into the bedroom. I sat down on my side of the bed, towel around my waist, already half thinking about the long day ahead. We'd planned to go Christmas shopping together, ticking off lists, grabbing coffee, doing all the normal December things that are supposed to feel warm and safe when you're engaged and building a future. My fiancée, 28, came over and sat beside me. She was waiting for me to get dressed, scrolling on her phone casually, the way couples do when there's no reason for suspicion. I glanced over without thinking, just an automatic look, and noticed she had Snapchat open. At first, it meant nothing. We both use it. Then I noticed the name at the top of the conversation, a man I didn't recognize. She later told me she knew him from Scouts. That explanation came later, after everything else had already started to unravel. In that moment, though, my brain hadn't caught up yet. I was still relaxed, still trusting. Then something nudged at my memory. A small, uncomfortable click. I remembered seeing her earlier sending a photo. Not just any photo, a Snapchat filter selfie. She'd done her makeup, the kind she usually only wears for special occasions, not for a lazy Saturday morning before Christmas shopping. She was still wearing the lingerie she'd put on for me the night before. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. I didn't want to think much of it. Now, looking at her phone, I saw the response underneath the image. Good morning, beautiful XXX. It didn't hit me all at once. It took a couple of minutes, which almost feels embarrassing to admit. My mind kept trying to normalize it, to file it under nothing because that's easier than admitting something might be wrong. But the words wouldn't sit right. They echoed. Good morning. Beautiful. 3 kisses. From a man whose name I didn't know. Once it finally clicked in my head that what I'd just seen wasn't normal, that it wasn't something I could brush off or laugh away, I asked her as calmly as I could manage, "What was that then?" She looked at me with a blank expression and said, "What was what?" I explained it plainly. I told her I'd just seen a photo sent on Snapchat, a photo of her wearing the revealing lingerie she'd slept in the night before, sent to a man whose name I didn't recognize. As I said it out loud, my heart was pounding. Part of me was hoping she'd immediately say, "You're right, I'm sorry," or offer some explanation that made sense. Instead, her first response was denial. "What photo?" she said. "You're seeing things." That hit me harder than I expected. I told her I didn't think I was. I was certain of what I'd seen. As soon as I said that, she stood up abruptly. She started pacing around the bedroom, restless, avoiding my eyes. Then she walked out of the room entirely. I watched her go, confused, trying to keep up with what was happening in real time. I saw her pull her phone back out as she stood just beyond the wall in the next room. I couldn't see her anymore, but I knew exactly what she was doing. I asked her what she was doing. No response. I asked again, my voice sharper this time. Still nothing. That's when it fully dawned on me. She wasn't thinking. She wasn't processing. She was deleting. The realization felt cold and heavy, like something dropping straight into my stomach. When it sank in, I asked her to come back and talk to me. I asked her again what she was doing. She came back into the room and told me, flatly, nothing. I was in shock by that point. I could feel it physically. My hands felt numb, my thoughts slowed down, like my brain was buffering. I sat there silently for about 30 seconds, forcing myself not to say something I'd regret. When I finally spoke, I kept it clear and simple. I explained exactly what I'd seen, step by step, without accusation, without raised voices. Again, she told me I was seeing things, that it was nothing. I told her, again, that I didn't believe that. I asked her what was really going on. After that, everything blurs a bit. I don't remember every word or the exact order things were said. I remember how stunned I felt, like the ground under me had shifted without warning. I think I'm still stunned, if I'm honest. Eventually, after more back and forth, she admitted that she had sent a photo. She said the man was someone she knew through Scouts. She said it didn't mean anything. She said it was the first time she'd ever done something like this, and that she didn't know why she'd done it. She described it as her being stupid, like it was some impulsive, meaningless mistake. I remember sitting there trying to make sense of it, my emotions all over the place. Part of me wanted to understand. Part of me felt sick. I started asking questions, not calmly anymore, but emotionally, desperately trying to piece together a version of events that didn't destroy everything I thought I knew. Through those questions, she told me she'd been feeling pretty and that she was seeking validation. She talked about being bullied throughout her childhood, about how it left her with deep issues around self-worth and needing reassurance. I knew about her past. I knew those wounds existed. Hearing them used to explain this felt confusing because I didn't know where empathy ended and boundaries were supposed to begin. I asked her why she needed validation from another man. I reminded her that I compliment her often, that I make a point of telling her she's beautiful, that I appreciate her. She agreed with that. She didn't deny it. Then she said something that stuck with me more than anything else. She said she liked the way this other man used to compliment her. That sentence keeps replaying in my head. I don't know how to interpret it without it hurting. It made me feel like my words, my love, my reassurance somehow weren't enough, or worse, had become background noise. Like I was safe and familiar, and that made my validation less valuable than attention from someone else. A day has passed since it happened, and somehow that makes it worse rather than better. I can't go 30 minutes without thinking about it at least once. Sometimes it's a sharp, intrusive thought that stops me mid-sentence. Other times it's just there in the background, like a low hum I can't turn off. What scares me is that this is happening even though I haven't actually had time to sit and think. We haven't stopped all weekend. 2 family gatherings back-to-back, Christmas shopping trips to 2 busy locations, Christmas markets, church, and all the usual day-to-day things layered on top. Ironically, despite all that movement, we haven't managed to buy a single present for anyone yet. The point isn't that we've been productive, it's that there hasn't been a spare moment to breathe. No quiet. No pause. And yet, despite that, my mind keeps dragging me back to the same place over and over again. Even when I'm distracted, even when I'm smiling at relatives or walking through crowds, it's there. I'll be halfway through a conversation and suddenly replay the moment I saw the message. Or I'll hear her laugh and wonder who else hears that laugh through a screen. I don't want to think these things, but they keep coming anyway. I've noticed myself doing things I never used to do. I glance at her phone whenever she's texting. Not deliberately, not in an aggressive way, it's almost automatic. I don't remember ever doing that before, or at least it never stuck in my mind if I did. Now it does. Every time. And I hate that. I hate that something so small has shifted my behavior without me choosing it. It makes me feel paranoid, insecure, and unlike myself. There are also things I still can't make sense of, no matter how many times I turn them over in my head. The first is how quickly it was directed back at me, how easily it became about me seeing things, like I was imagining it or losing my grip on reality. That gaslighting, even if she didn't consciously intend it as that, is something I can't shake. The ease with which she dismissed what I saw with my own eyes unsettles me deeply. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't surprise. It was outright denial. The second thing, and maybe the biggest, is something I can't reconcile at all. The fact that she sat right next to me with that conversation open like it was nothing. If this really was the first and only time it had happened, if she knew it crossed a line, then how could she be so careless? Surely, if you're doing something you know you shouldn't be doing for the first time, you're hyper-aware. You're cautious. You hide it. You don't casually scroll through it next to your fiancé while waiting to go Christmas shopping. That's what keeps looping back in my mind. It makes me think this wasn't the first time. Because people don't act that relaxed when they're crossing a boundary for the first time. They act like that when it's already been normalized in their head. The third thing is the lies. Not just one lie, a chain of them. First, I was seeing things. Then, I wasn't wrong, but it was to her best friend who is gay. I wouldn't have been entirely comfortable with that either, but I could have worked through it. Then it was the truth. It was this man. But it meant nothing. Then it was the truth again, but actually it was about validation. And not just validation because she liked the way he used to compliment her. Each version came only after the previous one stopped working. Each truth seemed to arrive only when there was nowhere left to hide. That's what makes it hard to believe that the lies stopped there, as she claims. She told me I could check her phone every day if I wanted. I declined immediately and told her I never would. I don't want to be that person. I don't want a relationship where trust is replaced by surveillance. But at the same time, declining doesn't magically restore the trust that was broken. Another thing that keeps bothering me is how quickly she jumped to extremes. After admitting what she'd done, Her first instinct was to take off her engagement ring and start packing a bag to go stay at her parents' house. I hadn't asked her to do that. I hadn't suggested it. I hadn't even raised my voice. It felt premature, almost rehearsed, like those were options she'd already considered before that morning. That thought scares me more than I want to admit. Then there's the deleting. Deleting this man from Snapchat. Then deleting the app entirely. On the surface, it looks like damage control or an attempt to do the right thing. But it also conveniently removed any chance for me to see what conversations existed before that morning. I'll never know how long they'd been talking, how often, or what had been said. That door closed forever the moment she deleted it, and I didn't get a choice in that. What's also hard is what hasn't happened since. I haven't asked for anything. I haven't demanded apologies, explanations beyond what I already pushed for, or grand gestures. But I can't help noticing the lack of effort to make things right. Maybe I'm wrong to expect anything. Maybe there is nothing that can be done. But I always thought that when someone genuinely regrets hurting their partner, there's an instinct to reconcile, to reassure, to be close, to show affection, to demonstrate remorse through actions, not just words. Lastly, and this is the part that weighs heaviest on my chest, we're not just talking about a relationship in isolation. We're about to have our first child together. The baby is due in April. We're supposed to be getting married 3 months later, in July. When I think about timelines, about how close all of this is, it makes everything feel urgent and fragile at the same time. We've been together since October 2023, and we moved in together in May 2024. In that relatively short time, we've become inseparable. We're genuinely each other's best friend. We do everything together. She calls me every single day on her break at work, and she always has. As soon as she finishes work, she calls me again. She hates being apart from me unless one of us absolutely has to be somewhere else. That constancy, that closeness, is part of why this has shaken me so deeply. It feels so contradictory to what I experience day to day with her. This is my first real relationship. I'd hoped, maybe naively, that it would be my only one. Because of that, I know I've learned a lot through her. I'm still learning. I don't have a long history to compare this to, no catalog of past relationships to help me recognize patterns or red flags quickly. Everything I know about love, partnership, compromise, and trust, I've been learning as I go with her. She, on the other hand, has been in several relationships before me. From what I understand, none of them lasted more than a few months, and they all ended badly. I never held that against her. Everyone has a past. But now, in light of everything that's happened, I can't stop myself from wondering if there are patterns there that I didn't fully appreciate before. I've also always been aware that before we met, she used to send photos to certain individuals in exchange for money. She was honest about that, and I accepted it as something from her past. But now I can't ignore the thought that this might be connected. With Christmas just days away, 2 big families to buy for, a baby coming in less than 4 months, and a wedding 3 months after that, money is obviously a pressure. Not, we can't survive pressure, but stress all the same. She gets particularly anxious about money when it comes to gifts. She worries about not being able to afford to buy me a present with her own money. I've always told her, and I genuinely mean it, that my money is hers. I don't see us as separate in that way. In fact, I send most of my money to her for our shared expenses. I've never wanted finances to be a source of fear or imbalance between us. And yet, now I find myself wondering whether this Snapchat situation was about money as much as it was about validation. Or maybe both. The idea that it could be tied to something I thought was firmly in her past makes my stomach turn. I don't know if that's the truth, and I don't want to accuse her of something without proof. But the uncertainty itself is eating away at me. Despite everything, I love her. I still do. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. I want to raise our child together. I want the family we've been talking about and planning for. That hasn't disappeared, but it now sits alongside a growing feeling that something needs to change. I don't yet know which path I'm on. All I know is that love alone doesn't erase betrayal, and the future we're about to step into is too important to build on unanswered questions and unspoken boundaries.